Today we are doing 3 exercises that are going to help with your squat mobility. The first movement is a Cossack squat. So a lot of people find that they just don't have the mobility in the ankles and the hips to get into a good bottom position for a squat. So the Cossack squat is going to help us get better at that over time. So we're going to take a nice wide stance. You may find as you start the movement that you have to reposition your feet further. You'll find very quickly if it's the wrong stance for you. Now from here, we're going to shift our weight. Our hips go back and our weight goes towards the side, noticing that this knee tracks over the toes and the heel remains on the floor. Your other foot is going to shift and toes come off the floor. And then we come up. Good. And then we shift to the other side. Notice again, heel always staying on the floor of the working leg. Now, when we see this go wrong, we'll see people often struggle with the mobility. So rather than thinking about, I have to be really low, and then compromising, so if you go and keep your heel off the floor. So here, if you struggle with mobility, often this is what's happening. People are taking the heel off the floor whilst they're trying to get deeper. That's not going to help us get better in our squat. We really want to focus on trying to challenge your mobility where you are and just taking it that tiny bit further. So you'll keep your foot on the floor and keep the hips a little higher. And you're going to shift to the side, just at wherever you are. If this is your end range and you're working really hard to be there, that's amazing. That's going to help you get stronger and more mobile in that position. Sometimes we're too worried about what the end position is for someone else, and we forget that we have to take these steps slowly for ourselves. I think it was Simon that told me about, nearly 10 years ago, probably 6-7 years ago, that the process to get a mature squat, if you're someone who doesn't have very good squat mobility right now, is a 3 to 5 year process. So that gave me a lot of hope when I started out, because my squat was really bad. He can attest to it. That if I just put in the effort on some of these movements, that I would eventually get a really nice squat. And I can tell you that it works.
Very well.
So our second exercise is going to work on our control as we're lowering into a squat. Now, often when we're squatting, we have one side that is weaker than the other. So this is a really nice way for us to sort of challenge and see where we might be weaker than on one side or the other. And this is also going to help us eventually build up to doing maybe single leg squats, which require much more strength and control than a normal squat. We're going to do a sit to stand. Simon's going to lift one leg up. He's going to try and keep his hips really straight and his core engaged. He may lift his arms up in front to counterbalance. Now he's going to sit down with control. So the control is very important here. Touching his butt down to the box and then reaching back up and coming back up with control. Good. Now, where this goes wrong is when we don't have control going down to the box. So often when we say sit down to the box to someone who's not tried this before, it's going to look like this. Okay? So what we want to try to do is try to find a height of target to sit to that we are in control the whole way, but it's still going to challenge us. The other thing that we really want to try to avoid is trying to use all your momentum to get yourself up. So we're really trying to work on that strength of the working leg. So do it wrong for me, Simon. Okay, see how he then swings off his butt and uses his whole torso? So what we want to do is make sure that we're in control and have tension in the body throughout the whole movement. This is going to force that working leg to actually do the work and get stronger. Very nice. Our last exercise or mobility work for our squat is an assisted squat hold. Now, for a lot of people that are trying to get better at a squat, actually sitting in the bottom of a squat is really hard. So by putting a band that just sits under your butt attached to something sturdy, this is going to give you some support so you can get into a little deeper position than where you're comfortable. So you're going to think about this as a way to get into your ideal squat. So you might have your feet, if you're squatting right now, you might find you have a really wide stance to sort of try to compensate. So when we're doing this, we want to come to a more ideal position. So maybe sort of just outside of your shoulder width. From here, we want to still keep our core engaged. We're going to sit the hips back and let the knees track forward over the toes. And then from here, we can hold on to the band or we can hold on to the rig as much as we need to. But we're trying to really focus on keeping the heels down and then pushing into our end ranges, at the same time pushing the knees out, sort of getting into those deeper positions that would be really hard to do without some assistance. The goal here is to increase our amount of time in the position. So I like to start with trying to build up to doing 2-minute holds a day. Once 2 minutes becomes comfortable, then increase to 3, 4. Eventually we want to be able to sit down here comfortably for like 5 minutes. Now, I know for a lot of people when this starts out, just 2 minutes there is incredibly painful. It often feels like really hard work through the front of the legs, in the hips. This is completely normal when it's new to you and these are really challenging your end range. I promise it gets easier, but you do need to focus on doing them every day.